was debt to GDP, the other was deficit to GDP, and the other was balancing the operational budget. And it's very unlikely that he will achieve any, if all of them. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I only raised the debt to GDP anchor because, as part of the premise to your question, you mentioned the election campaign, you mentioned the fiscal anchors that the Liberal Party of Canada campaigned on. And I know that potentially for some there's a bit of lack of clarity regarding the changes that have occurred to those fiscal anchors since the election campaign, and in particular leading up to the Prime Minister's comments in the House of Commons in the third week of September, where he indicated that the debt to GDP anchor was still one of the fiscal anchors for the Government of Canada. But of course, as we and others learned with Budget 2025, the government decided to cut that anchor.
Thank you. You know what, numbers are important, but sometimes I'm a little bit of a math guy myself, not as much as you, Mr. Jacques, so I do like numbers, but for many folks it's important to put them in context. So I thought of an analogy, I was trying to think of an analogy of the likelihood of Prime Minister Carney delivering on his election promise, that specifically the declining deficit to GDP ratio. So I looked up the odds of the Toronto Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. 7% is actually the bottom-dwelling Maple Leafs, or cellar-dwelling Maple Leafs, have a 7%. Over the next 2 years, it's 12%, which means that the Toronto Maple Leafs have a much greater likelihood of winning the Stanley Cup than Mark Carney does on delivering his promise. Is that not correct?
I don't follow hockey.
But if you accept the odds of 12%, then it was much more likely that the Toronto Maple Leafs will win the Stanley Cup than Mark Carney will deliver on his election promise. Is that not correct?
If you say so.
Thank you very much. Now I want to get to a little bit of a more serious. Okay, I'll save the rest of it for my next round. Thank you very much, Mr. Jacques.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence, and apologies to Leaf fans everywhere. Mr. Gasparo, please, for 6 minutes.
Good to see you again. Do you agree directionally with our government's plan?
Given that the mandate provided to the Parliamentary Budget Office is simply to undertake technical analysis, it's not our place to agree or disagree with an economic or fiscal policy of the government.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that, because maybe we can drill down a little bit. In the report you tabled, you said, and I quote, "Given the proximity of the baseline federal debt to GDP ratio in 2055-56 to its initial level in 2024-25, our framework would suggest that there is a modest negative fiscal gap. That is, based on Finance Canada projections, current fiscal policy in Budget 2025 would be deemed sustainable over the long term." So we're investing more in infrastructure that has productivity benefits over the long term for our economy. You've provided testimony here before that suggests our government's plan to invest in infrastructure and long-term productive assets that help alleviate some of the concerns that currently exist within the economy. Do you believe that that focus on capital spending, on investing in hard assets that generate revenue and increase productivity is where the government should be focused on? And should the government be focused more broadly on that capital spending?
Again, it's not our place to offer recommendations to the government with respect to their fiscal and economic policy. I would repeat what I said at previous committees, which is, I think broadly speaking, most mainstream economists would recommend investments in the economy to increase its overall productive capacity. and in turn increase the growth potential of the Canadian economy, which in turn increases the potential for improvements in the quality of life for the population. And that is not to say whether I endorse the government's fiscal and economic policy or not. That's in the, it's a more of a theoretical, geeky response to a very specific question about a specific document.
Well, we do geeky well here, so welcome, you know.